Welcome to TJ Walker Interactive. We're live. It's Thursday, December 2nd. It's 2 p.m. Thanks for joining us. I'm here with my colleague, Mike Bako. Mike, what are the top news stories of the day?
TJ, Sarah Palin continuing to make news. Attacks on Sarah Palin continuing to make news. A couple days ago, Joe Scarborough in a Politico.com column called for Republicans to call her out as not a true leader, not a true presidential candidate. And now Ed Rollins, the veteran Republican strategist, coming out on CNN.com saying that he knew Ronald Reagan and she's no Ronald Reagan, echoing the Lloyd Bentsen comment to Dan Quayle from many years ago in the vice presidential debate. TJ, what do you think about this? Eventually, all these chips in Sarah Palin's armor, do you think it'll come back to haunt her?
Actually, I don't. I think the more old-time, reputable GOP insiders attack her, it actually strengthens her appeal. It makes the grassroots, the Tea Party people like her more because it makes her more of an outsider. I mean, the problem with being an outsider in general is you can't get enough money to get on TV and have anyone pay attention to you. Well, Sarah Palin has solved that problem. I don't think any serious person can suggest she's not going to have the name idea or the money to do whatever she wants in the future. So when Ed Rollins attacks her, I think he is reflective. I think he's being honest, and I think he is reflective of what most Republican longtime insiders feel. They can't believe that. They think she's the biggest idiot who ever walked the face of the earth. They think she could be the destruction of the party, but they've been afraid to say it until this week. First Joe Scarborough, now Ed Rollins. Again, I think Palin has a knack for spinning this in her favor. She can say, you're right, all the old-time insiders, the lobbyists, the people who've been around for 40 years don't like me. That's going to make her more appealing. Now, I'm nothing bad to say about Ed Rollins. He's always pleasant with me when I see him at the green room at CNN. But he is somebody who's been around for 40 years. And he is someone among conservatives held in slight suspicion because he's on CNN. And that's supposedly the enemy. He's not where he should be over at Fox. So I don't think this hurts Palin one bit. Mike?
TJ, other news today, a woman applying for a job at Citibank put together the usual standard cover letter, resume, but included a PowerPoint in her efforts to land this job and sort of being derided across the board for just being overzealous and something that these corporations are not really looking for. But to me, it seems like she was trying to stand out from everyone else in the field. Certainly not the same situation as the Duke student from a few months ago who put together a PowerPoint based on some of her sexual conquest throughout her 4 years at Duke. But what do you think about this practice that this girl put into effect here? Do you think this is a new trend? Do you think it's something that because she was held under her feet to the fire so much for this, do you think that people will just stop doing this altogether?
Well, there is a fine line when it comes to promoting yourself, especially in the relatively stuffy, rarefied world of Wall Street. I think she's on the right side of the line. A few years back, you may recall when people started using videos with their resumes, there was a fellow who showed himself weightlifting and running and making himself out to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. He was ridiculed as a fool, and I don't think ever got a job. This woman, I think, did the right thing. Yes, she has a resume, but she made what I thought was a fairly clear, easy to see, somewhat memorable PowerPoint. People would like to make fun of her for using clip art. Well, get over it, folks. I, for one, do not see how clip art actually hurts people when it comes to getting their messages remembered. This isn't the PowerPoint I would give if I had a job interview, but as an extra aid to help her stand out, I say, well done. I think we're going to see more of this. Mike?
TJ, more news from the New York Times today. In their never-ending effort to bring in more revenue, they're looking to charge customers, and they're using the Weight Watchers model for people paying for the content that they're producing. Do you think that this is eventually going to catch on?
I do wish the New York Times well. I really do not think the world was going to be a lot better off if there were no New York Times. Their model, I'm not as familiar with the Weight Watchers model, but I know that they're also being compared to the Consumer Reports model. Now, Consumer Reports is really delivering something different. They spend tremendous amounts of time and money buying products, running it through tests where it's quite rigorous and there can be no bias. So if you're going to buy a microwave, a washer, a car, and Consumer Reports gives it a very high rating, you can really have faith in that. It's not just spin, it's not just PR, and you really can't get that information anyplace else. as much as I like what the New York Times says with its national coverage and Washington coverage, I'm not so sure there are that many days in the week where I think, you know what, that's the only place I could have gotten that story was the New York Times. So, you know, I spent an awful lot of money on information between cable and magazines, other subscriptions. I still don't know if I'm willing to give money to the New York Times online. I mean, for so many years I had the paper subscription. For a while I was paying the subscription on the Kindle. But now I find I'm addicted to my Google Reader that I just read on any computer. So I think they're going to have a hard time. We'll see.
TJ, someone else who has some money concerns, remains to be seen whether the PR gimmick of the day from Tampa talk show host Todd Schnitt putting out $50,000 reward for the founder of WikiLeaks if they aid in the capture of Julian Assange. TJ, what do you think about this? Certainly a PR gimmick. He has us talking about it. He's lighting up his phone callers coming in, trying to find out where this guy is. But $50,000, a small price to pay for all the PR that this guy's getting.
It's a pretty big price if you don't have it. And that's the thing, we don't really know. I mean, this host may be on the up and up. I'm not casting any judgments on it. I will say this, it is a great PR gimmick. And hey, I used to be a Tampa talk show host and pulled a few gimmicks myself, so I don't want to sound like I'm, you know, making him out to be a horrible monster here. But this is, frankly, the sort of gimmick that exposes all the weaknesses of the media. They see something exciting, attacking, a headline, and they latch onto it. Nobody ever goes back 3 months later and says, hey, did you pay that $50,000? It's too complicated. Plus, nobody typically says, well, do you have that money in an escrow account now? Why should we believe you? By the way, do you even have $5? I don't know. But it does strike me as a gimmick. Not the most nefarious of PR gimmicks, but still on the more gimmicky side of PR positioning. So hats off to you today for getting us to talk about you, but not much of a long-term story.
TJ, that's all our news for today, but check back right after this segment for our question and answer period every day at 2 p.m. here on TJ Walker Interactive.
Get ready with your questions. We're going to answer them live.